Hello, hello, and happy Wednesday, everybody. Let me go ahead and share this out while we're waiting for everyone to join. Now, I love today. The weather today is absolutely beautiful here in Pennsylvania. Hotter than I would like. I think all the hurricanes have really kind of pushed off the Indian summer that we usually get here, because that usually happens at like the first week of September or so, not almost the last. But it's warm, but it's sunny, and it actually feels like fall. Hi, Kim. Woohoo. I haven't even got to sharing the post out yet. I'm capitulating today. Maybe not capitulating, but I'm woohoo! Not entirely focused. That's okay. This week has been like focus, 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 focus already, and it's only Wednesday. That's what you get for a week with master days and lots of high energy. Right. How are you, Kim? How's Missouri? I'm laying out my notes here. I'm actually going to be telling a little bit about my story today and how I really got fierce with my sensitivities and got fierce in my life. And in the 90s, yeah, it feels that way here. It's probably high 80s here, and it's been humid. So it's like, oh, need lots of fans, but I'm sure. How are you coping with the 90s? Oh, okay. Well, go get comfortable while you're listening. So I really wanted to start just really talking into my own story with this, because I think we have a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be a light worker and what it means to do service out here in the world. I think the comments are going a little slow. So if I laugh, it's because I'm looking at the comments and I think I'm finally catching up with the lag here. So this is probably the first time I'm really telling this story like this. So bear with me here. All right. I kind of started out with my gifts, with being psychic, with being intuitive. I started out from the wow, yeah, no words today. I wrote all these words, but yeah, words aren't coming out today. I started out from the perspective of almost being a investigator. So I was in college and I was studying anthropology. So I was very much looking at the world from the point of view of what I can prove, what it all means, trying to figure it out, trying to get to those root perspectives and causes. And so when I was coming into my gifts and I was finally realizing like what my main gifts were and how they were working in my life already, I was coming at it from the point of what does this mean? And it served me to a point. Now, looking at this like 20, 25 years later, what served me better was actually coming from a standpoint of what I was looking at the time with my friend who was guiding me through this was, I think it was, I forget what it was called. It was like ecological psychology or something along those lines, eco-psychology. But it had to do with the organicness of our own experiences and having to trust and rely on our own innate feeling and perceptions, because that is how the world is being translated by this body of light. Now, of course, it was psychology, didn't talk about bodies of light, but, I translated it for myself. Now, as I went forward in life and, got bored, got married, all that wonderful stuff. And then I was a mom of 3 kids, but I was still having this yearning and this urge to keep exploring my gifts, exploring who I am, exploring my own potential. Where is this all going, kind of thing? And so I joined a few of my friends and we were doing paranormal investigations. And we still do, but time is like crazy. But I would certainly not say no to anybody in need at that point. But it was really this: I wanted to serve, and I didn't know how, because at that point I was not comfortable with the idea of having to sell myself or charge for my gifts or anything like that. I was much more just adventurous in spirit. And so paranormal investigation was like, all right, I can walk into somebody's house and use my senses and see what's there. And I did. And I went into lots of houses and I saw lots of things, and I gained a lot of experience that way as to what can be possible, what people could be going through, and how to really differentiate between when people merely sense something and when they're actually in danger, because they're two very different things. And when we're starting out, I think we get so inundated with everything that we do take in, we're not always sure what is what. But it wasn't the ghosts or the spirits or the never corporeal entities or even the people, because I didn't even think myself as a people person. I was an anthropologist and I was afraid to talk to people. Empathy. Empathy, anyone? And that wasn't the hard part in any of that. That wasn't the part that challenged me the most. What was challenging me was my mindset, was my fear-based beliefs. Fear-based beliefs about what spirits were capable of, entities, but what it meant. That there were things out there that were never human, will never be human, and probably came from another plane. And what my role was in all of that, and what that meant about me and who I was supposed to be, and just being a spiritual worker in general. I had a lot of weird little beliefs that were keeping me from really knowing what I needed to know. Now, because I was already coming from a perspective where I was in tune and I was trusting my own experiences, my own feelings, my own sensations, that whole intuitive part of us, I was using that as an experimental model for the world. I had already sorted out a lot of things, and I was a witch at the time. I still am. But it was much more like, I'm a witch then. Now it's just like, yeah, that's who I am. It's awesome. I was also coming from this belief that we are powerful, and it's not the tools, it's not pieces that we use for divination. Oh, I even have my cards up here. And it's crystals are wonderful and beautiful, and they have an energy of their own, but we are the most powerful tool there is. But when I put myself to the task with going through all those investigations, I felt myself failing, in a sense, failing the spirits, failing spirit with a capital S, failing even the clientele in a way, because I didn't trust myself to talk about those experiences, empathy. I didn't trust myself to really get in there and learn how to apply my power and apply my own sense of what was going on. I knew what I felt. I knew what I was experiencing. I knew who I was talking to. But I would try and handle it all on my own because I was afraid to be in my own power with this. And it kept me freaking out. It kept me relying on myself instead of my oneness. And I always felt that I was disconnected then from other people, that whole weird empathy thing. And so I was standing in my own power because I couldn't trust anybody else to back me up. And that's a problem. And it was And it kept me away from my power because I was constantly sensing and stopping, sensing and stopping. And it created such unclarity about who I was and how I was supposed to be working this stuff out in the world. Because let's face it, there's really no instruction booklet, or there are lots of instruction booklets, let's say, lots of groups out there. But then there are also like 10,000 opinions about how that stuff is supposed to work out for you. And you can't trust just one. And so you don't know who to trust. But the thing is, these things don't just affect your spiritual work. It wasn't just the paranormal investigations. It wasn't just the readings I was doing. This is a holistic thing. We are mind, body, soul, not pieces, merely different aspects of this existence. We have all these different planes of us. Let's put it that way for now. And they're all working in tandem. When they're working and we're not blocking ourselves up, but they're all working in tandem. They need to be, because we are part of a whole. We are whole. We are whole beings unto ourselves. And so it's not just the spiritual side that gets gunked up. It's then your relationships to others that gets gunked up. Your relationship to work and to money and to healing and to just about anything else in life. They all go back to these very much deeper root causes for where we are with our own power and where we're taking the reins in our life and where we're not, where we're stuck in those fear-based beliefs. And I was having a lot of issues even believing I could begin charging for any kind of work. Again, I was having a lot of problems with my empathy back then. Being an empath, I was having trouble with that sensitivity. It wasn't just my valuation, because I saw how I did help people when I was able to be myself. It was that I was allowed to make a living at it. I was allowed to be supported, other than a good ghostly spiritual pat on the back for having done good that day. I was staying unclear about hits, especially in my own life, the stuff that we have a hard time being objective about, because I didn't want to burst the dream. I didn't want to burst the dream that I was going to be this good and perfect light worker, that I was going to be just a white witch and never do any harm and blah, blah, blah. And I kept trying to do those things, no matter how wrong they felt, no matter how not in my power I was, in ways that would completely not work out, just because it doesn't work that way. Life does not work that way. Because I couldn't conceive that spirit would ask me to take on power, ask me to take on things like being a spiritual warrior, whatever that means to people. And I always thought that I had to play by these rules. And if I didn't play by these rules in my relationship, in my work life, that, I would attract bad things. I would be in bad energy and da-da-da-da-da. But they contradicted how my gifts work. They contradicted what was healthy for me as an empath. I could never fight. I don't know. Wow. I guess my throat chakra is getting a workout today. So I couldn't fight, because light workers and spiritual people don't fight. We don't fight. We turn the other cheek. It's all those little things. But as an empath, we have to be much more real about the emotions that are going through us and what we're experiencing, because we are then in flow and we're getting guidance to be able to heal and correct things. And it doesn't always mean turning the other cheek. Sometimes it means holding somebody accountable in a loving way, because we don't necessarily have to or need to or want to damage them anymore. But sometimes we have to be a little bit firmer and hold people accountable. It doesn't mean always being in this state of surrender. And that's one of the biggest things about The biggest spiritual lie of all is that we have to be in surrender about everything all the time in order to be spiritual. The surrender comes, it does, but it doesn't come in the beginning. It doesn't come when we're just starting out and learning our gifts. What exactly have we to surrender to the divine when we don't have that stuff worked out? We have jumble and mishmash. We have, whatever seems to make sense to us at the time. And, we can't always help that. We can't always help what we understand in the moment. But the surrender comes after we've gotten in touch with our power, after we have honed our gifts, after we have a tool to give, to serve with. And power is not a bad word. Power does not corrupt absolutely, and it doesn't mean that we're being greedy. And we're talking about living within our own authentic power, not what we manipulate from others. And empaths, don't even get me started on this. Even what we think of as love on this everyday kind of experience that we have, even love can be manipulation. So it's not only narcissists who are doing it. Sorry. We need to come from a much deeper place with love, a much more holistic and soulful core. This is who I am as a spiritual being, not just I'm turning the other cheek because that's what everybody tells me being spiritual is about, kind of. We're not talking about that. We're talking about cultivating your own sense of being able to stand up for your rights as a person. Just because you're spiritual, just because you're sensitive, just because you're an empath, just because you're a light worker, doesn't mean you shouldn't be standing up for your own rights. It doesn't mean that we need to lay down the law every time either. It doesn't mean that we need to get into the fight. It doesn't mean we need to start the drama, but we do need to stand up for just ourselves, because that is the reason why we're here, to stand in our light, to stand for what we are experiencing, and to put that out into the world, however it comes to you at the time. You may get a knee-jerk reaction to something that's happening, and you may experience anger and fear. Being a light worker doesn't mean you don't experience darker emotions. It means that you have the tools, you have the deeper connection with soul and source to be able to heal that within yourself and transmute it into something powerful. Your mission. Healing greater than yourself. Our gift is through our ability to heal, not because we're perfect, not because we are always in surrender, following spirit. That stuff comes after we've built ourselves up as beings that have the potential to carry all of that divine energy and bring it down to this earth. But it started with owning my experiences, and it started with developing my processes, my intuitive gifts, really beginning to untangle the empathy where I began and somebody else started, and knowing that difference so that I was dealing with my light and not trying to take on the burdens of others. Because the more I work with empathy and the more I work with other people's energy, the more I see we can't necessarily heal that energy by taking it into us. It has to be something that we help model for them, model the healing for them, model the love for them so that they can find it and untangle it themselves. And it really took developing my intuitive language, my psychic language, how my gifts work by the clairsentience and the claircognizance that I have, all the feels, all the tingles, all the body sensations, working out what those things meant for me, how spirit was talking to me in that moment. And I get into this a lot, and the 5-day intuitive challenge is coming up on Monday. Yeah, so if you want to know more about that and how to even start developing those gifts, start figuring this stuff out so that you can be a tool that can be used, so that you can be of service and not just willy-nilly, but with power and intention and clarity, then you want to sign up for that challenge. I'll drop the link here while I'm live, because I'm not quite done with what I was saying. I don't want to forget, because today is a forgetting day. I'm sorry, it's a boot camp. It's not a challenge. That's right. Boot camp. I didn't even spell it right. I'll go back and fix that later. All right. But it is a boot camp. And that does bring up my last point here. I'm teaching this as a boot camp because because we need to go beyond the edges of our comfort zone with some of this. And in the beginning, sure, it's all fun and it's all good to be able to feel like you have your footing with some of this, that you understand that maybe you're getting a clairsentient or a claircognizant hit and you just know or you hear something. To just be able to realize that is one thing. But we aren't meant to stay in that place. And we don't have a lot of schools and we don't have a lot of teachers out there in comparison to the amount of people coming to be light workers. This is a huge year for the awakening of light workers, and we're going to need more teachers and more healers and more people to speak about their experiences, whether it's through authoring or through teaching little workshops. We're going to need to up-level our game. We can't stay in the state anymore of, well, I was probably an angel, and what does a white feather mean again? We have to bring it. So this is why it's a boot camp. But it's not a boot camp as in I'm going to beat you up. It's a boot camp in I want you to stretch your own experiences. I want you to try something new with your gifts. I want you to try to engage the flow more consciously. So that is what this intuitive boot camp's about. It's 5 days in my Thriving and Free Empaths and Intuitives group. And if you just sign up there, that's probably because you're already, don't worry, Kim. It's probably because you're already in. Don't worry about that. But there'll be 3 days of video lessons, and then we'll have 2 days that are strictly for like Q&A and getting into where you are with things. What are your challenges? How are you experiencing things? And trying to figure out what your intuitive signs, signals, and omens mean. Trying to get that kind of clarity so that you can begin to deepen your intuitive process, so that you can learn to begin to consistently raise your vibe. Because one of the things that I'm going to be preaching in this boot camp is that when we're coming from our daily experience, day after day after day, and if we're not connecting to source, if we're not doing the daily practice kind of light work that we need to do, we are coming from a place that is underpowered. And we are light workers. We have the hard wiring to be able to handle copious amounts of light and love. We might need to stretch our spiritual muscles in order to get comfortable with that and with raising our vibe more and more and healing more and more. But that's why this is a boot camp. It's just to expand your experiences with this stuff And it will also help you find deeper trust and deeper confidence with your intuition, your intuitive process, and just being able to say what is coming through you. Because it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to send you into spirals of doubt. So, if you want to join. I will fix Kim's joining of that. Actually, I'll just probably put her on the mailing list. Techie stuff that goes on in the background of these things. But if you have any friends who might want to do this, who seem to need to find their own power with this, because maybe they're sitting in a house full of ghosts, absolutely terrified. Maybe they're afraid they have an attachment that they can't get rid of. Maybe they're too afraid, too worried that if they open their gifts, something bad will happen. This boot camp is designed to put you in touch with Source, so none of that can happen. Because you will be vibrating at a level that those things, those kinds of experiences, aren't going to affect you from. Not to say that you won't still be sitting in a house full of ghosts, but you will then have the intuitive skills. You'll be building the intuitive process to be able to deal with those spirits, those situations, and even those people in your life who are so negative, from a fair and just light worker way where you don't feel drained, you don't feel depleted, and you don't feel like there's something wrong with you, because there isn't. You just have to grow into your light loves. All right. I will see all my lovelies on Friday in my free Empaths and Intuitives group. And you will be hearing more and more about the Intuitive Challenge as we go through this week. So I cannot wait to meet you for just joining the challenge, and I cannot wait to hear your stories. It's going to be an absolute blast, because that's, I'm an anthropologist. That's what I love. I love hearing about people's experiences, about how people experience the world, the divine, in their own spirit. All right. Love you, Kim. I'll see you.